Hello and welcome. This is Accounting on Excel with Amaka Ifebunandu, the Excel coach. And in this training, I'll be showing you how to prepare financial statement, which is made up of the income statement and the balance sheet. In our previous training, where we designed the chart of accounts, general journal, general ledger, trial balance, we'll be picking up from there to design the income statement and the balance sheet. So this is a part two of that training. See, if you have not yet gone through that training, it's important you do so that you can follow along in this training. So I'll be dropping the link for the part one of this training that involves redesigning a chart of accounts, uh, making the journal entry of month's transaction, preparing the general ledger, and trial balance. I'll be dropping the link of that training in the description section of this video. So I want you to watch it, and I also drop it right up in this video. You can look at it up in this video. So I want you to watch that video first, go through it, practice, so that you can be able to achieve this result we did and be able to follow along in this training of preparing the financial statement, which is made up of the income statement and the balance sheet. So you can, if you follow through to that training, you should be able to have put in all this together, your general journal, and also being able to generate your general ledger using the slicer right here. So we're also able to design our trial balance, which you come to the chart of account section of this. You have your trial balance column here. So this is the trial balance we'll be using to prepare the financial statement, right? So for, as you can see, I've already set up the structure of the financial statement. It's not that difficult to do. I'll just walk you through on how this was done. So to make it easy, we'll first of all insert a slicer in here using the account type to help us and guide us on the items that will be on our financial statement and our income statement. That's on the balance sheet statement and the income statement. So go to your table design and you click on the insert slicer. So we'll be using the account type to insert slicer, and there you go. So I'll just increase the column to make it 4 columns and resize the slicer. Good. So I can just increase the height, and I position it right here, change the color, and here we go. So the essence of this is just to filter each of this account type to help in structuring our financial statement. So for the income statement, when you go back to your chart of accounts, I know the income statement is made of the income and the expenses. So you can just select the two. You can just select multiple selection. You click here to do your multiple selection. If you want to select more than one item on your slicer, you click on this check, then you can select this two. So you can see for the income and expense. So this will guide me. These are the items that I should find on my income statement. So sales income, I have an item. So I'll just look at the ones that has figures. You understand there is transaction that took place on those financial lines. So you can see for sales income, we had transaction. For salary expense, we have transaction. For utility, we have transaction. So when you come to your financial statement, for income statement, we have sales income, we have cost of sales. So let's go back, chart of accounts. So we have, okay, we have cost of sales. We'll also select this. So these are the items that mix up our income statement. We have the income, cost of sales. So we have an item for cost of sales. So these items are liabilities, current assets, current liabilities, equity, non-current assets, and non-current liabilities. So we first of all select the items that make up your income statement. Right, having that in mind. So if you don't know those items that make up your income statement, let me clear this. Then I'll advise you to also insert a slicer for your statement type. So you can select here and click on the table design, click on insert slicer. So just insert a statement type so that it will be easy for you. Maybe you don't really know those items that are found in income statement or your balance sheets. So let me just resize it here, and there we go. Okay, let's have it here, and we can resize this. Good. Also give it this color. Good. So, or we can resize it and have it. So the idea of having this is for you to be able to know the items that makes up your balance sheet and income statement. So now we want to prepare our income statement. You can click on that. So these are the items that will be making up our income statement. So definitely we have the income, the expense, the cost of goods sold. Right. So when you're preparing your structure of your financial statement for the income statement, so you have your sales income, cost of sales, then utility bill, salary expense. Because when you look at your chart of accounts, the item that make up your expense is the salary expense and the utility bill. Right. So those are the things you will use in structuring your income statement. So you have the name of the organization here, then you have income statement for the month ended 31st May 2023. Remember that this case study, the transaction we capture is just for the month of May. So if you're capturing for a period of 12 months, let's say from January to December, and you have to prepare this, so it's the income statement for the year ended. So we know that it's a 12-month period that makes up a year. So for this is the month ended. So we are looking at just the month of May. So you insert your Naira sign, and to do that, you go to the Insert tab. So this is how I did it. Just select the cell, Insert tab. You come to the section. You see the section where you have the symbols. You click on it and click on symbols. So I have my Naira sign. I just select it already. So if you don't have it showing, you can just go to the subset, look for currency symbols. You can just click on the currency symbols so that you won't have to keep scrolling, and you look out for the Naira sign. Then you click insert, select it and click insert, and you close. So all I did was to increase the size, the font size. So you just increase it, and that is how I inserted the Naira sign. Copy it into the section. So for the sales income, we already know how we structured all this here. So the same thing applies to when you go back to your chart of accounts, and I clear this filter here, and I click on income statement. You note balance sheet, sorry. Click on balance sheet. So you will notice the items on the balance sheet also. So this will help us in preparing the structure of the balance sheet, which is also called statement of financial position. So you input the name of the business. For this, you call it statement of financial position as at. It's always the position as at a particular day. And we are looking at the last day, as at the last day of the month, because our income statement is for the month. We are looking at the month ended. So the month is ending 34. So we are looking at that financial position as at that last day. So if you are looking at income statement for the year ended 31st December, so your statement of financial position should be as at the last day of December, which is 31st December. So have this in mind. So for the period, if it's for the month ended, right? So you look at the financial statement will be for the last day of that period you are looking at. So you're looking at the position of your assets and liabilities as at the last day of the period you use in preparing your income statement, right? So this is for the financial statement, right? So before we go in here, you can see also I've shown you how we got the Naira sign. So with this, with the item here, with the items right here, you know you have current assets, you have non-current assets, current liabilities, equity. So you have items for your current assets. They are for cash on hand, Zillion Bank, inventory, account receivable. So when you go to your financial statement, you can see those items, inventory, account receivable. We have 4 items. So this is how I was able to structure it. So I have 4 items. So you go to financial statement, you have those 4 items. So for non-current assets, if you come here, you notice that we don't have, for the non-current assets, there is no amount here. So you notice we don't have transactions. So for those lines that we don't have transaction, it won't be captured. The formula will be inputted here, won't even capture it, right? Won't capture any figure on that. So there's no need of imputing line item that there were no transaction in those for that period you are considering. Unless there are transaction for that period, it will definitely capture it here, right? So you can see, so you now have your total current assets, then the total assets. So the idea of preparing financial statement is to you have to work with this equation. Let me put the equation here. Equation says assets is equals to liabilities plus equity, equity or owner's capital. So this is what will guide us in preparing this. So let's now go in and impute the formula that will bring in the necessary details we need here in preparing our financial statement. So we'll go back to chart of account. Remember that this chart of accounts is in a table. That's our chart of accounts and also our trial balance that forms part of it is in a table. And when you go to your table design, you select any cell in the table section. When you go to the table design, you notice that the name of this table is COA. So we want to extract the figures in our trial balance. We want to use them to prepare our financial statements. So let's go to our financial statements. For the income statement, we'll be using the sum ifs to extract all those. So you can use the sum ifs to do that. You can also use your VLOOKUP to extract it, whichever one that you know you want to use. I think that will be okay for you. You understand, to work with it. So I'll just say equals to, say sum ifs. I'll work with the sum ifs. So what's the range? What's the range now we are looking at? So I want to work with sum ifs. I prefer working with sum ifs. So the sum range now, we're looking at COA. We are looking at the table COA. So we are looking at the balance, trial balance. So that's the sum range, right? So what's the criteria range? Still the table, we are looking at COA and we are looking at the account name. We are looking at this account name because that's where you find sales income. Then what's the criteria? This is the criteria. Then you close the bracket. Right? So you can see 50,000 because 50,000 is a credit item. When you go to your chart of account and you will look at income statement, you look at your income, you notice that, sorry, so you look at your sales income, you see it's a negative. So for all the credit balance account type, it's a negative because the income account type has a credit balance. So you will see it as negative. But when preparing our financial statements, we don't want this negative. Oh, all you need to do is just to, you can just times it by -1 or you just put the minus before the sum if, right? And there you go. So it does away with this, right? So the same thing, you can copy this formula and paste here. So I don't want the minus sign here because this is debit balance. So the minus sign should not repeat here. The first item is a credit balance. So I can just impute this. So you see, I've imputed all the items needed to prepare the income statement. So all I need to do is to calculate the gross profit. The gross profit is the income minus cost of sales. So it's equals to this minus this. And there you go. So I'll just put the top border and there you go. So the gross profit now minus all the operating expenses. So what's the total operating expenses? I need to get that. The sum of the total operating expenses. So this is the sum. So I'll also put a top border here. So this, to get our operating profit or loss, so net loss, because I'm noticing we have our profit is more than expenses, so definitely this is going to be a loss. So it's a new business, the business is still starting, so there's a possibility, when a business starts out like that, you definitely won't be making profit in the initial stage of the business, right? So you definitely experience loss, and as things keep going on, you break even and start making profit. So for us to calculate, seeing that this is definitely going to give us a net loss because our gross profit is less than the expense. So you just equals to this, our gross profit minus our expenses. So we already have a loss, a loss. So you close it, you're done with it. So in closing it, you use the top and the double bottom border. So it shows that you are done with this. So in accounting, when you use this double border, this double line for a cell, it means that you're done with everything concerning with that section of the account, right? So this is the last figure we need, and showing us that we already made a loss in this month, right? So that is how you prepare your income statement. So the same thing we'll be doing for the balance sheet. So for, if you notice, for the non-current assets, we don't have any item here. You don't have any item. So for the current assets, then for this, now let me say something. For this, you can have it here. Let me see, for this one, I can shift it, bring it to this point if you want to, and the total will still be here. So it still depends on you. The formula is still okay. So I can just shift it here and sum the whole thing just to give it a better structure. When you have more item, you can sum it up and push it. The total should come here, right? So it all depends on you. So let's go into the statement of financial position, which is our balance sheet. So you notice that the idea is this: your assets has to be equal to liability plus equity. Assets equals to liability, it has to be equals to liability. So this will be our guideline. Assets equals to liability plus equity. So for the assets, we don't have any item. You go to chart of account. Let's click on balance sheet. For assets now, you notice for the non-current assets, which is this two line. Let me undo this, and non-current assets. So for the non-current assets, there is no transaction. So you go to current assets. So current assets, we have cash on hand. So this is how, as I stated earlier, this is how we structured everything here, right? So all we need to now do is, let me just select all the balance sheet item. Good. So all we need to do is to still go through the same method using our sum ifs to get all this item in here. So for the inventory, let's put it in here. Here we don't have any item for non-current assets. So for this, I'll still use the sum ifs. Sum ifs. So we're still working with the table COA. We want to get the items from the trial balance. So you select the trial balance. So what's the criteria range? So you still get to the COA table. We are looking at the range account name. So what's the criteria we're looking at? We're looking at this, right? And there we go. So this is it. So I can just copy this formula downwards. Good. And for us to get our total current assets, you just use the sum and sum up all this. Good. So I can just make it bold, increase it to 14, and put the border, top border, just the top border. We're not closing this yet. So for us to get our total assets, sorry, I can push this here. Good. I can push it here. Do away with the top border. No border. Top border should come here. So just to give it, structure it the way the financial statement is structured. All right. So having done that, this is total current assets here. So we don't have non-current assets, total current assets. So we just sum 0, that's this particular cell plus the cell. Good. So it's giving us 3 million. So you can now put your top and bottom. So we are done with total assets. So you can see it's giving us 3,005,000. So this total assets, and the idea is our assets must be equals to liabilities plus equity. So we already have a total assets of 3 million. So let's go to the liabilities section. So first of all, we have the equity section, equity and liability. So we'll look at the equity section. So let's pick the items using the same sum if. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the table COA, which is our chart of account table, and we're looking at the range trial balance, column trial balance. Then what's our range? Still that COA table, and we're looking at the account name. And what are we looking for the criteria? Owner's capital. So this is the owner's capital. So because owner's capital is a credit balance, I will just put in negative. I don't want, I'll put in negative from the beginning to get my positive figure. Yes. Now for this net loss, you can't find it in your chart of account. So this is the outcome of your income statement. If it's a net profit, you'll find it there. You find it here. It's part of your equity. So because we have our net loss here, all we need to do is just to connect it connect it to our net loss. So this is a loss. This is a loss, not a profit. So it's already a loss, so it has to be in a negative sign, right? So for the drawings now, the drawings will use this formula. You can copy this formula and you paste it here. Good. Now, you notice this. Let me undo because the formulas are not consistent. I'll just say ignore. We didn't use the same formula here. So that's why you're seeing that. So you notice this is a negative, and I will leave it in negative because drawings, as I stated when we were preparing our general journal, I said drawings are the amount the owner of the business takes from the business for his personal use. It's an equity account, but it doesn't behave like equity. So if you notice the financial statement, the owner's capital, this is positive, but drawings does not behave like equity. So it has the reverse is the case. So that's why it has to be in the negative. So you're taking money from equity, so you are reducing equity, right? So drawings will always be a negative figure in the equity section of the balance sheet, right? So this is what we have. So to get our total equity, you just put your top border here and you get the total equity. So you can use the sum. So it's definitely minus this. So you have 2,955,000. So this makes up the total equity. So to get our account payables, so you can copy this formula here. We'll be using the same formula and paste. So here you go. So because we just have one line item for liabilities that makes up our liabilities, you may just push it to this section. Good. And there you go. So this is your account page. So the total of, let's get our total. Okay, copy this and put here. Total equity and liability. Total equity and liabilities. Good. So what makes up our total equity and liability? You can use the sum. So we sum this and this and close the brackets. Good. So you can see that our assets must be equal to liability plus equity. So these are total assets, these are liability plus equity. So I can put the top and double bottom border. You can see we have our balance sheet is balanced. So the sheet has to be balanced. So it's balanced. So we are good to go. So having done that, having completed this, to give this a better look, you can just deactivate the grid lines. I can deactivate it. Let me leave it and give this. I can give this a color and just demarcate it. Let me give this column a color. Can go and give it a fill color of this. Yeah, this is okay. So that's okay. Then you can go to your view just to give it a good look. So good to go. You don't need this. This was just a key for us. So as you can see, we have our income statement and statement of financial position as at 31st May 2023. So we are good to go. So this is how you prepare your income statement and your statement of financial position, which makes up your financial statement, right? Remember, for you to prepare part of the statement, the income statement and the statement of financial position, you need to have gone through the process of your journal entry. So you have to go through the first training, right? So I believe you've gotten value from this. Please, if you have, like this video, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload value tips on this channel. Thank you and see you in the next training. Bye for now.